this idea of change and the speed of change. We've seen a lot of disruption. Retail itself, your industry, has seen a lot of disruption. But what's been the most significant shift that you have seen over the last 18 months, Naveen?
Yeah, I think that the sort of thought that a customer wants to shop when, where, and how they want to, I think that's been amplified as crazy as you possibly can imagine over the last 18 months, right? I mean, it sounds like a simplification of that moniker, but in all truth, the move from, I mean, we had stores shut down for 3 to 6 months, depending on which part of the world you were in. We had, and yet our store associates were shipping product out of stores just to keep our customers happy within a very small time frame. So, the store, even though the store was shut down to customer entry, the store still played a very, very clinical part of our supply chain process, for example. But I'd say the fact that most customers moved online seamlessly, whether you were a digital native or not, you moved online very quickly last year, because unless you moved online, you almost had no way to service even your most basic goods and services, right? So I think the point about how the move to online got amplified, and then I'd say the other thing that really took emergence last year was the emergence of what I would call SafeX as opposed to CX, right? We talk about CX a lot, but the whole concept of safe experience is something that really took shape in the retail world and in many other industries as well, not just in retail, but what did it mean to have mask wearing protocols? What did it mean to have curbside pickup so that you minimize contact? What did it mean to have touchless payments, for that matter, or even touchless shopping experiences where somebody just left the package outside your door? So I think the emergence of SafeX was a huge piece. I think it's here to stay. I think the emergence of that true omni-channel framework of the store being a point of fulfillment, shipping to your home, is also here to stay. A lot more people are more comfortable shopping from the comfort of their living room or their home office, as the case may be. So, just a lot of emergence of online, offline interoperability. But I'd say SafeX was a big plus. I think the move to online was a big plus. And more customer data, as some of the earlier, panelists talked about, huge amount of data even being collected now in different spheres, which a lot of companies have had to adjust to, but ourselves included. But it's been a fun journey so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, I'm so glad to hear you're focusing on the positives of the last 18 months, because I think that's really important moving forward. How do we focus on what is here to stay for the longer term, as well as those short-term challenges that everybody faces. Now, we're here today to talk a little bit about, I guess, this unification of the offline and the online journeys and what that means for you. So maybe you can talk us through a little bit about how you've been impacted over the past 18 months and what these shifts have meant for you longer term.
Yeah, I think it's a super pertinent question, right? For us, I mean, obviously not a lot of people know this, but Footlocker has been around for a very, very long time. We were the Woolworths company before that. So, as many companies would have it, our practices are mired in very, sort of our traditions and our models of operation. And I think our systems speak to that as well to a certain extent. So one thing we certainly had to do was really bolster up our whole digital experience, our IT systems on the back end, as the case may be, and prepare for a very, very eventful holiday last year, I would say, because moving into Q4, you might imagine the old, I think it was Satya Nadella who said 10 years of digital disruption in a couple of months, as the case may be. But just the move to online was a huge shift and a huge sort of expectation driver for us, and everybody's expecting that stable customer experience, right? But I know we're talking about emerging tech, and we're talking about AI and machine learning, and what can we pack on to that commerce journey with the customer, as the case may be. But in reality, if you don't have a really standard and solid core experience, which is to take the customer from however they enter your experience, whether it's through the apps, sites, homepage, as the case may be, and take them seamlessly through to the checkout process and give them a good fulfillment and post-purchase experience. If you don't do that at the very basic level, everything you're building on top of that is a house of cards, right? So I think it's super important to build that core experience and remove as much friction from that core experience as possible. So I think that, for me, was a huge piece of what we'd focused on last year, because everything you build on top of that is going to be good if that foundation is strong, right? So I think that was a big push for us. I think the move towards SafeX was a big push for us. I think collecting more customer data. So a lot of the themes that you touched on in that initial which will go through the summit with the individual speakers and their discussions, are things that we really focused on. But the store played a crucial part of that whole equation. And I think people use digital as a moniker for online. I think we've got to start thinking about digital both in store, in the physical world, in the virtual world, overall across the experience. Digital is not online. Digital is everywhere. So that was the other sort of mind shift that we had to explain to our customers, and the store was a big part of that digital push as well.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks, Naveen. Well, we'll touch on that as we go deeper into this. I think this idea of digital as a concept and as a mindset shift, I think that's super important. I do just want to touch upon this, first of all, this idea of the core experience and making that robust and resilient and deliverable every single time. I shared that stat earlier on that I think 1 in 3 customers will walk away from a brand they love after just one bad experience. That really seems to me to focus in on the importance of getting it right every single time. So what for you was the key part in delivering on that core experience? What did you focus on first?
Yeah, so I think I think one of the speakers earlier said that focusing on the customer journey or the single journey of the customer, et cetera, et cetera. I think for us it was the journey for me, as I break it down, is you've got a plethora of permutations and combinations and what a customer journey could be like, right? Because obviously you've got so many different channels across the board, whether it's your social channels, your search channels, your apps, your sites, your stores, your call center, your contact center, whatever that is. So you've got so many different channels depending on how you're set up as an organization. And the interoperability between each of those channels could be a unique journey in itself, right? So, and if you touch, and then you take social alone and you see the number of different social media outlets you've got from Facebook to Instagram, so you go through all those channels and you've got a plethora of journeys. So the question is, can you start to really figure out what your core customer journeys are? Almost prioritize them in a very core way to say, and break down the journey into very minuscule, minute pieces, rather than saying, let's go solve the entire customer journey. I think that's a much harder, pill to swallow for most companies, because you don't know where to start and you don't know where to finish. So I think the point is, what we did was break down that customer journey into very, very sort of logical pieces of the journey and try to fix the friction points within that journey. And if you can get even those mini journeys right within the core experience, so we split our core experience into 4 really key journey points. One is the shopping journey, which, let's say in the online world, would take you anywhere from homepage to the cart, right? And then you break down the purchase journey, which is anywhere from cart checkout all the way to the auto confirmation model that you give to your customer. And then you go into post-purchase, which is fulfillment, shipping, address, payments, etc. And then you finally finish off with the call center journey, which is almost post-purchase, because you get the fulfillment, you might have a problem, you call the call center, as the case may be. So we broke that down into 4 very, very logical pieces and said, okay, well, let's focus on what the customer is facing here in terms of friction points and fix that. So if we can look at the core journey, but break it down into really logical pieces, I think that's a really good way to approach solving the challenge for the customer.
Yeah, perfect. You talked there about removing some of these friction points. What did you identify as the key elements of friction, and how have you gone about removing some of those?
Yeah, I think back to the core experience, right? People want, at the end of the day, if you read Jeff Bezos's letter to his shareholders last year, the one phrase that stood out to me very clearly was, I want to make experiences that make people yawn, right? As strange as that sounds, we talk about customer delight, we talk about customer journeys being amazing. At the end of the day, customers want to come in, have a supremely dependable experience, and then go about their lives as they need to, right? They're not here to sort of sit around and just wait for the best customer experience. So I think the best customer experiences are those that really are dependable. So the ones that we looked at was, looking at our NPS surveys, looking at the observed data that we look at in our ecosystem, not just the reported data. How do you sort of take that, assign what we call a struggle score to it, and remove the challenges that have the biggest struggle scores attached to them, right? So I think that was a really important part of how we approached it, and said that as long as we take out those areas where the customers are complaining about the most and make them as dependable, not flashy or delightful or whatever that is, but make them as dependable and predictable as possible almost, those are the ones that I would say would be the ones we focused on and have given us the biggest bang for our buck from a customer experience perspective.
Yeah, love that laser focus on just the dependability and reliability and repeatability, I suppose, of the experience. I think that's really critical and a great way of looking at it. You mentioned the importance of the physical store. We've talked a bit about digital, and obviously we've all seen an explosion in digital touch points over the course of 18 months. What kind of role did the store play within that mix? And as I guess a key delivery channel with regards to some of those other touch points.
I mean, if you look at the pre-digital world, obviously the store was everything, right? The store was, from everything from shopping to browsing to, a place to get together, etc. I mean, the store as it's evolved, especially through the last 18 months, that role of the store has almost changed fairly drastically. But it is all those good things from the past that the store did, but it's a bunch of new things as well. And I think the three areas that I think the store will evolve into in a really, really important way, especially in a company like ours, where let's say trial is still an important part of buying a sneaker, right? You want to check your size, and until you're comfortable with your size, if you're a sneakerhead and you're buying 20 pairs of sneakers a year, you probably don't care about your size and fitting. But if you're buying two or three pairs of sneakers a year, you're probably going into the store to check your size. Different brands have different approaches, but I'd say the three areas that have evolved for me and really looked at, we're looking really closely at and has worked very well for us is, the store as a place of fulfillment, which obviously across retail, across even non-retail, it's become a place for fulfillment where you can buy online, you can pick up in a store, you can ship from a store, and it's still, still deliver within the same day. For example, same day delivery is a big change during the pandemic. So I think place of fulfillment, number one. I think number two would be a place of engagement and excitement. I think it's a great opportunity for you, even if your customers are not there to purchase, for you to really create that level of excitement. I mean, what we do when customers come in and shop with us is we create an unboxing experience for them if they want to buy a pair of sneakers that they feel really happy about. So I think that there is the excitement and the engagement piece of it. And then there's the third one, which is a place of community. In our case, a lot of our customers use, our 16 to 30-year-old kids who come into our store, use it as a place to meet, use it as a place to have fun and discuss and go out and discuss their preferences for different sneakers, talk about sport, talk about hip hop culture, as the case may be. But it's a great place for communities to come together and to really use that to our advantage. And whether that leads to a purchase in the long run or not is how well we work through it. But I think it's a great, and of course the older pieces of the journey will continue to work. I mean, it's a place to go and browse. I'll never stop browsing a store. I'll never stop. There is personalization, and you want to get to more focused areas of how a customer shops, but you never take browsing away from the human psyche. You'll never take away the sense of discovery away from the human psyche. So those pieces still hold good for the store. But otherwise, fulfillment, engagement, and excitement, community, I think is the role of the store of the future.
Yeah, great stuff, Naveen. And I suppose this is where this idea of thinking of digital as more of a concept, as a mindset shift, as opposed to a channel in its own right, comes into play. So what elements are you taking from digital, if you like, and applying those in the physical store? And likewise, how is that working in reverse? What elements are you taking from what's working well in the physical stores back into your digital campaigns?
It's a fantastic question, right? Because there's so much cross learning between those two major channels. Let's call them the physical channel and the digital channel. Of course, physical has so many different obviously connotations, and so does digital as well. But if you take those two larger pieces of the puzzle and try and tie them together, I think, for example, the amount of mobile integration we're putting into our stores, right? The olden days, you'd say, okay, let's put a big screen in the store. Let's put a try-on, sort of big monitor, and let's start, using that in the store, or let's digitize the store. But it involved a lot of capital investment in the past. Today, you've got the advantage of consumer-grade devices that can do everything that 10 years ago a big screen or a massive computer in a store could do. So rather than putting the onus on the company to go and spend a ton of capital dollars against digitizing the store, make it available in consumer grade, make it available to the customer. And whether that involves an AR experience where you go into the store and sort of look at a lens, to look at a Snapchat lens and do something and unlock that. I mean, we've done everything from AR experiences where you can see LeBron dunk in front of you, in a store experience, or whether it's something as simple as scanning a QR code. As all of you know, QR codes have made a big comeback this year, but it's something as simple as scanning a QR code and trying on or learning more about the product that you're scanning, or even checking out through a mobile phone without even seeing an associate or a team member on that particular day. So, taking those parts of digitization and putting them in the store is really important. At the same time, you don't want to lose some of those store aspects like trial, for example, or understanding if you could buy an entire set of clothes, which is to match your sneaker, you want a good pair of joggers or you want a good sweatshirt. How do you sort of evolve that into the digital space? So I think we've done some good experiments right now and started to scratch the surface on, how do you do trial online and pick an entire set? So it allows you an upsell and cross-sell opportunity apart from just buying sneakers. So we're piloting that online. There's a try-on experience where you can do AR in your home, pick a shoe, pick an inventory sort of model that you'd like, and try it on your foot in the comfort of your own home, so that you don't have to ever go to the store. And using AR and some of the other technologies we have to do things like that is actually proving to be really beneficial. And the tough part is now, how do you take that and connect that to your inventory systems to do a seamless checkout of a try-on AR experience, which is those kinds of things are the next challenge for us in the CF journey.